What if I told you that in just 4 weeks, you could double your real estate agent connections and close more deals without cold calling or awkward pitches? Today, I have Kelly Yale here with a simple but game-changing strategy that every loan officer can implement immediately. Kelly, let's get into it. Why are real estate agent relationships so critical for loan officers?
You know, the last 20 years, the last 10 years, the last 5 years, we've gone through all of this redefining what the relationship looks like, especially the last few years, right? We went through a big refi boom. We were really focused more on the day-to-day than the actual business building and the relationship building. But the reality of where we are for 2025 is we're going to have to get hyper collaborative in our relationships with our agents again. And we have to stop coming from a place of like, I do business with these realtors, and instead really embrace the concept that we need to do business together to be really successful this year.
Yeah, and I mean, it really is. It's together we go farther, right?
Mhm.
And it's not I get relationships from you. It's like we just do it together.
Right?
Um, so what's like the number one thing that loan officers are getting wrong in trying to build these relationships?
Okay, so this is not very PC the way that I say this, but I'm gonna do it anyway, which is just like the connect and immediate smash, right? The swipe right and immediately say, "Hey, when are we going to hook up?" No, we cannot do that. That's not how you build a relationship, right? If you're on the apps right now, right? If you're on a dating app, you don't connect with someone you find attractive and then immediately ask when you're going to like see them that night, right? You got to build up relationships. So don't connect with them in social media and immediately be like, "Hey, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm a loan officer. Do you know what a loan officer does?" Of course they do. Okay. When they connected with you, they had a whole moment like, oh, should I really connect with another lender? So if you're going to be the
Yeah.
person who jumps in their inbox and starts immediately on them, that's the wrong tactic. So we genuinely need to start building a relationship. Think about it like dating. What are you going to do to find commonalities? What do you have in common? Are you the right match? And then meet for something together, whether that's a Zoom, whether that's a lunch, God forbid it's a coffee, because I swear to God, if we don't change the do you have time 15 minutes for a cup of coffee thing in 25, I'm gonna cry. But think about the steps that lead to any relationship, any friendship, and then follow those steps if you're thinking about how to create a B2B partnership.
That's so awesome. I love that. So as we're kind of building up to this strategy that you have, this one thing that you have for loan officers, what made you realize that there was a need to change this whole methodology?
I genuinely have been of the same mindset since 2012 when I arrived in the industry, right? My background was social media, connection with, really connecting with human beings, finding out how you can create sort of a squad around your brand or like, this group of people who really believe in what you're doing in that level of partnership. But I didn't exactly have great mentorship when it came to like relationship building because it wasn't a focus of our branch. But when I started building like really smart marketing technologies, I knew that automating that relationship building would be the most important part of the platform. And yet I probably should have leaned into the fact that it really was the backbone a little bit more because so often when we would start these relationships on behalf of the loan officers, right? Just even if it's just introducing themselves to the listing agent and then after closing, really following up with that relationship building sort of communication, what would happen was we were automating these relationships on behalf of loan officers, but we were seeing how many huge results they were having. But what was funny is that when you're in the business of automating relationships, you get the feedback you get is like, "Hey, I just got a loan from someone and I don't know who they are. Like, what is this?" And you're
Right.
like, "Oh, it's a loan," and also hashtag you're welcome. But yes, that's what it's supposed to do. That's what we do when we pay attention to every single relationship that we have from a B2B perspective being in some way a curated, designed, and smart approach. Because once people feel like you really are paying attention to them, they're going to do business with you.
That's right. That's right. All right. So let's jump into it then. So what's your big idea? What can loan officers do to get more real estate agent relationships?
This is a pretty simple tactic, but it's one that I do like to start with, especially if someone's coaching with us or if we're just starting out with them. And it's this. Everybody hates to ask, right? Everybody hates cold calling and hates asking, which I totally get. However, it's pretty likely that your closest family members and your closest friends either work with, have a neighbor, or have a friend who is a real estate agent. And maybe they mention that person in passing at some point, or maybe they've never mentioned anyone at all. But if you could choose five people this week, friends, family, neighbors, doesn't matter, and you just send a simple text over to them. And so I'm going to use you as my example, Joe, right? So I'm like, "Hey Joe, it's Kelly. Listen, I'm really committed in 2025
Mhm.
to meeting new people, to building outside of my sphere. And I would really appreciate it if you know an excellent real estate agent, if you use an excellent real estate agent, or just if you are friends with a really good real estate agent, would you mind putting us in a group text today and just introducing me, letting them know that I'm just somebody that you trust? I'll take the conversation from there, but it would be really impactful to my business, and I would really appreciate your help." And honestly, I've been having loan officers do this for the last 4 or 5 years, and they get such good and positive results from the text because they get scared to send it, but the impact is huge.
Oh, it's enormous, and I think it comes from having a warm introduction, right? And so
100%.
having that warm, I mean, don't you that like what do you think separates that from just a reach out? Like if I were to Instagram and ask you to, to coffee, how why is having that warm introduction so much more impactful in the long run?
Well, because we don't, as human beings, especially the way that we are so hyper connected with one another and yet have no idea really who we're hyper connected with in social. That's a complicated thing in social, right? I have to look at you. I've got to do a little research. Do I really want to meet this person? But a warm introduction says, this human being that you trust trusts me. And all I'm looking to do is just make this connection with you because we both know this person. And chances are, if you check out their social media, you've probably got 15, 20 people in common.
Yeah.
Those people also trust you. So now you're thinking about, how do I just merge my sphere with the spheres of people around me? How do I make sure that the people who if you think about it, the person you're asking them for the best agent they know. What a great follow-up to say, "Hey, listen, Joe says you're the most amazing real estate agent in this city, and I didn't know, and that's on me. But you know what? We're going to change that around." The approach to that conversation is so much different.
Well, I think it's a really important point you bring up, Kelly. And it's like that follow up, right? So, all right, so like we're walking through the strategy, right?
Yeah.
I've reached out to 5 different people, asking for that introduction. You gave a really great script on how to approach that conversation. Now, what's my follow up, right? Tell me as a loan officer, let's dumb it down, right? All right, I
Yeah.
got that introduction. Do I just start texting on this thread? Like, what do I do next?
So the thing I would do after the introduction is just introduce yourself a little bit and just say, "Hey, Joe," or let's say the agent's name is Mike. "Hey, Mike, it's so great to meet you. Joe has such incredible things to say
Yeah.
about you. My goal, as I'm sure is your goal for Q1 of this year, is just to figure out how I'm going to have the most successful year this year. Would love at some point to connect with you. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the group chat. I'm going to text you directly, just so you have my number, and hopefully we can meet, sometime in the next, few weeks." Leave it pretty open ended and calm. But then a couple days later, or maybe even the next day, I would definitely reach back out to that person and say, "Hey, hey, Mike, this is Kelly, Joe's friend. I know we were introduced. Would love to take you out for lunch. I see that you know my brother-in-law as well, which is so funny. How do you know him?" That's
Yeah.
it. Leave that open-ended question dangling in the middle of the air. And then they will write back, you connect, and then you should, and I mean, I know you didn't ask this part, but once you go to lunch, once you're done, in my opinion, you would turn that little video camera around, you turn your little phone around and say, "Thanks so much for the lunch. I think you're fantastic. I think we definitely have a lot in common. I was really, really glad to meet you." And then you should initiate some level of campaign that you have on your own end that is built in your CRM that talks them through the value of working with you. If you do not have a new agent value proposition campaign in your arsenal, you most assuredly should, because that is how you take someone from a I just met you to I understand what you do. I resonate with the way that you approach this. I understand that you're here to represent my brand well. And hopefully, you're doing another smart thing, which is saying, I just want one deal. Give me one lead. And if you don't think I'm worth doing business with after that one loan we do, that's fine. Okay, I won't ever bother you again. But when you see the difference that I'm going to make to your clients, we're going to have an amazing relationship moving forward.
Boom. I mean, it seems so easy, right? And yeah, I guarantee you that there are so many listeners out here. They're like, I can't do this. It's too hard. What are some of the potential roadblocks that you think that people are in their mind saying right now, and how do we overcome those roadblocks?
I mean, I think probably we all sort of just have that fear of starting, right? So immediately it's like, well, who am I going to, who am I going to send this message to? And then wait, what did she say I should put in the message? Just listen to this again or put it in ChatGPT. What's a really warm way that I can ask someone I know for a referral to a friend of theirs who happens to be a realtor? And then the second component of that is everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, mortgage CRMs are pretty awful. And then, should I not say that? That's
No,
100%.
I mean, I think that they're inherently they're not awful. Using the use of them is awful, in my opinion.
The usage of them is awful, and then people don't build them out for the things they're supposed to be built out for. And that's what I probably mean, but I'm going to stick with my original
No,
statement as
you can
well.
you can say whatever you want. It's great.
I mean, to be fair, I feel like I get I get to say that. But think about, why don't you have a omni-channel ready to go campaign that is built in there? In campaigns that I build for human beings, right? So for our loan officers who we take on, I start every single one of those new agent campaigns with the same thought process. I want to make sure that I thank them for meeting. I want to make sure that I ask them first about their business. I want to make sure I'm connecting us on all social media channels by offering up where they can find me. I want to make sure that I include the value proposition, and I want to make sure I ask for the loan opportunity. And what's more on that too, right? So let's say you have them on this campaign, it's working out really well. That has to be someone who then also is part of your ongoing realtor marketing, right? What
Mm,
you're reaching out with every month. How are you being of value? How are you going to have a strategy to curate this relationship long term? Because it's not just enough to have them on a text and an email campaign. You really want to figure out, how do I take this to the next level, which is high level marketing, which is high level collaborative marketing strategy, right? Because if you're sending
right.
some horrific, here's an easy baked chicken you can do for January, that's not what they want to receive. And I don't know how to make that any clearer, but unless you're a chef and a loan officer, no one cares about your recipes.
That's true. That's true. Well, let's talk about this then. I love that because I think that you need to have that really human element attached to it. You can automate a lot, but you can't automate your personality. You can't automate the connections that you have.
For sure.
So, Kelly, you've worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of different loan officers across your career and have coached a lot of people to do this very thing. I use the word coach lightly because I know you have a really hands-on approach with pretty much everybody you work with. But talk to me about a couple loan officers, or maybe just one that you've worked with that has used this strategy, and what kind of success have they seen?
Gosh, it's I had to fundamentally use Ashley McKenzie Sharp here, because we've been curating her relationships and her database for a decade. And so, like, it's when we started doing this philosophy, right? Back in 2012 with her, 2013, I think is when we started. What was important was that she had the willingness to also show up. And so that makes a massive difference, right? So if I'm putting in this strategy together, right? Each week on her behalf, we're educating and curating about 3,500 relationships with agents around the Carolinas. I mean, that is a tremendous
A
audience
lot.
to be in front of, and they don't opt out. And the reason they don't opt out is because we constantly teach them how to build their business, how their business should be stronger. We don't tell them like, hey, you know what? Rates are up. Oh, no way. I thank you, loan officer. But no, we want to make sure that we're asking and we're collaborative and we're super
Yep.
smart, right? But then we also manage all of her relationships in social media. So not only are we doing it via the database and via the CRM, we're also combining that with cheerleading them on in social media, telling them that their new listing looks amazing, making sure that we're driving the next event, making sure we're talking to them about how they can constantly collaborate with us. So the message that they get pretty much from the time that they start is that we are always going to be building your business and we're always going to be supporting your business. We understand that that's a time and an emotional investment on our side, and we're willing to make it because we believe in our partnership.
That's that's so good. I love it. I think one of the things I like just pull out of that I think is one of the most key important things for anybody who's doing this and doing anything with a relationship based business is you're taking those relationships, you're making them multifaceted, right? You're doing them in person, you're having them online. And the thing that I love that you said the most is you're cheerleading them, right?
Mhm.
You're not just, I think a lot of people take things very personal. It's like, what can you give me? And that
Mhm.
kind of take relationship doesn't work for any type of relationship. And, especially your marriage, right? But like, it's kind of like working with a real estate agent, like kind of like having a marriage, right? You got to both give
Yes.
100% into it. And if you're always that taker, you're going to get sidelined and it's not going to end well. But yeah, you got to have those be multifaceted, multi-dimensional, I guess is the way to put it, relationship. So thanks for sharing that. All right. So just to kind of recap as we wrap this up, then your strategy really is it's this, you said 4 weeks, just give you 4 weeks to try this out for loan officers. Try it, see what works for you. Every single Monday, ask 5 people that you know and like and trust already to give a warm introduction to a real estate agent that they know that they work with, and then follow up with them. Make that a long-term relationship. It's really simple. 4 weeks, 5 people a week. That's only 20 people you're asking for help. You're not being pushy. You're not being super salesy. You're just asking for a warm introduction. And it sounds like the results are really going to come from that really, really quickly.
If there's one thing about this strategy that just trips me out is how excited people tend to get from the results of it, right? It's just like, oh my gosh, maybe I only get 3 out of them as 5, to do an introduction, but it's still 3 new agents. And it's not just 3 randoms, right? It's 3 people who you can actually start on this journey with. And imagine if you started really working on those relationships from now until the spring market. Imagine that with the difference that you really have in April and May when you have these good, really dialed in relationships started.
That's right. All right. So what should I do today? If I'm a loan officer, should I wait? I mean, today's Monday.
Today's Monday.
Just
You
get
do it
started.
today. Even if you're listening to this on a different day, do it this day and then next week on the same day. Put it on your calendar. Consider it prospecting. This should be part of your prospecting time. You should have a prospecting time each day time blocked out, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. But if you really want to change the way you do business this year, it's going to be back to old school prospecting, meeting these agents, talking about collaborative strategy.
That's it. It's that simple. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your expertise, your wisdom, your knowledge, and this really, really simple, easy to use, actionable, engaging. It's perfect. I love it. I appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.